The voice of Kansas State Athletics, Wyatt Thompson, joins us to start the 4 o'clock hour. Paul Catalina and David Smoak. Wyatt, thank you for your time. I saw something I think Scott Frensham put up when he said that a lot of players, Kansas State players this week at AT&T Stadium, Big 12 Media Days, will be asked what it's like to be picked number 2, but Kansas State doesn't play for second place, and last year, of course, they won it all. There is a quiet... I love what Bill Snyder did twice, the miracle of all in college football. But, man, I tell you what, Klieman has done, and he seems to have everything kind of where you want it to be.
I love the guy. I'm just going to be honest. We were so fortunate to have basically 30 years of Bill Snyder, and what a blessing that was. But at the end of the day, you know, Coach Klieman came in here, and I've said this in many interviews, guys. I don't mind saying it to you, too. He respected what Bill Snyder did, but was very confident in how he does things and really was himself from the get-go. And it was a little bit rocky through the COVID thing, but wasn't it for everybody? But I think what I would tell you is I think he's very similar to Bill Snyder in terms of just I guess I would say, just the intangibles that make winning football happen, right? He recruits good guys. He's recruited a little bit better each time through the last 4 classes, which has certainly helped. I think they're very good in terms of player development here, and has a really good assistant staff right now. Colin Klein, our offensive coordinator, and Joe Klanderman, our defensive coordinator. I'll throw a couple of other guys out there. Our cornerbacks coach, Dan Malone, I think probably could be a head coach someday. And Connor Riley, our offensive line coach, does a great job. So there's a lot of strengths. And, you know, as opposed to the number 1 or number 2, I think they are confident, obviously. I think they just want to get out there and get it going and run it back, as they say now. So it's a good group of guys that can't wait to get started, frankly.
Wyatt, Will Howard really just took the bull by the horns last year when he was thrown in, and a guy whose first couple years of a career were as just a roller coaster as you could imagine, and didn't let it faze him, stepped up when he was ready, and got better each week, it seemed. How much has he even taken the jump now, knowing the job is his and that he is the leader of the team?
Fantastic question. And I think what you said was said perfectly. And here's what I mean by that. Will was thrown into the fire so early and way before he was ready, even as a true freshman, because of an injury early on in his true freshman year with Skylar Thompson, who's now with the Dolphins. And there were plenty of ups, but also plenty of downs. And I think all of us were impressed by how he handled that. He came into those press conferences on Tuesday afternoon and stood there and took all the bullets, all the questions, whatever you want to say, and never blinked and didn't worry about much other than getting better. And he's done that. I'll be honest with you, Coach Klieman and Coach Klein told me way before he even took the field last year that he is a much, much, much better player, person, leader than anybody would recognize, even just outside the walls of our program, meaning the K-State fan base. And I think he proved that when they called on him at TCU last year. And even in a defeat, he did all he could, trust me, against a really good team. And then after that, late in the year, the team became his. And I think it surprised a lot of people when Coach Klieman said that, but he meant it. And Will is absolutely one of the best football players on this team. And I don't think there's any doubt that from a leadership perspective, it is his football team, frankly.
Well, Baylor knows that because the game in Waco where Kansas State took the heart and soul of Baylor, 31-3. Martinez was there early. I think he got sacked early in the game, and then here comes Will Howard, and he just diced him up.
Well, you know, the thing about Will is that I think goes under the radar a little bit, and this happens in the game, right? I mean, I'm sure in Waco you guys have had many players like this over the years with the Bears. You know, guys are just naturally, they have good football acumen. You know what I'm saying? They're football smart. And there's nobody that I trust more than Colin Klein from his days as a player. and through the GA thing and being an assistant and now an offensive coordinator, when he tells me Will Howard is a potential pro and he's everything that you hope for in a player, I'm going to listen. And I think it's proven out that Will is really a good player.
Wyatt,
still, though, at the end of the day, he's still just a guy. He just wants to be one of the guys. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You couldn't ask for more.
Sorry to interrupt you there. I apologize for that. But what is the feeling in Manhattan as this new Big 12 with one more year with Texas and Oklahoma congregates over the next couple of days, Wednesday, Thursday in Arlington?
You know what? That's a great question, too. And what I would tell you is I don't know that it's any different here than it is anywhere else around the league. And what I mean by that is when all of this shook down not that long ago, when Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving and all of that, and frankly, there were some hard feelings about it and should have been, I believe. But here we are now, all of this time later, and I think everybody around the league is excited about what those other four can at least potentially bring to the party. I think all of us understand that, you know, you look at a Cincinnati and they've won at a pretty big level. Houston has won at a pretty big level. And I think the one team that I think is already recruiting at maybe close to a Power 5 level is Central Florida. And I've had a lot of dealings in my past, back to my days at Colorado State with BYU. They will take advantage of being in this league, gang. I'm just telling you, they will. And they will get better, and they will compete. They have they've got a big-time following nationally and internationally with the church. And they get good quality players. I'm excited about those four and what they bring to an already strong grouping. And I'll say this too. I'm sure you guys feel this each and every day. One thing that people missed when they talked about the league will die without Texas and Oklahoma, I'm not debating the fact it's hard to lose them and their national brand. But what people don't talk about and should is the fan bases in Manhattan and Ames and Lawrence and Waco and Lubbock and Stillwater that deeply, deeply care about their programs and are there to support them each and every week if they put a good product on the field, and sometimes even when they're just okay. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think sometimes people look at college towns, and for some reason the Big 12 college towns are thought of as smaller than everybody else, and yet Lubbock's got over 300,000 and others. Yep. But it's the passion. And I understand there's the SEC in the South and Southeast, the passion, but there is something about the fan bases in the Big 12. You're right. Some struggle at times. Kansas football for the longest time, Baylor for the longest time before Bryles got them turned around. But you're exactly right. They are locked in, they are loyal, and they're waiting for that opportunity to enjoy something. And I think you hit that on the nail on the head.
Well, I just appreciate the fan bases in this league, and you said that well in my mind, because I think you have to compare apples to apples. And if you're going to say Mississippi or Mississippi State, or name the team this side of Alabama, LSU, maybe. Are you kidding me? Every team in this league can compete with those types of teams, and they've proven that they have. Period. End of story. It's just a fact.
We're having Wyatt Thompson. He's on the show right now, the voice of Kansas State Athletics. By the way, a couple of K-State fans in Wichita saying they would not have missed the segment with you on the show. Wyatt Thompson with us on 365 Sports.
Wyatt, as someone who's been through a lot of college towns doing this job as long as you have, one of the things I've kind of always contended, because some people say, oh, players will never go here or players will never go there. Well, as college football changes and then the advantages changes, like the big dogs are always going to be the big dogs and they're always going to have money, unless they're, everybody goes bankrupt at Georgia, they're always going to have money. Sure. But as far as college towns to college towns recruiting and getting players, it's about the guy in charge, because outside of like maybe 7 or 8 cities that colleges could be in, most college towns are almost exactly the same.
Yep. That's perfectly said. And that goes back to what I was trying to say before. Look, I'm not anti-SEC. What I'm trying to say is that the SEC is a really good football league, but it's top-heavy and has been for a long, long time. I think in our league, you see more balance. Has it been dominated mostly by Texas and Oklahoma? Sure. But I think if you look at it fairly, and you look at the last, just in my time at K-State, I go back to 2002. K-State has won 3 Big 12 championships in that time. Baylor's won. Oklahoma State's won. You know, I mean, there are teams out here that compete. When you start really comparing players, I have no problem with stacking some of the guys that I've seen in the last 21 years against anybody. Do we have as many as Alabama, Georgia, LSU? No, but you know we've had our kind of guys like a Deuce Vaughn, a Darren Sproles, a Jordy Nelson, a Terrence Newman. I'm not going to keep going. You guys understand what I'm saying, and that's also true in Waco and Stillwater and all of those other places that I mentioned. I just think it's undervalued. It isn't our fault in this league that some of these markets are smaller, but so is some of the others in the SEC. They are what they are.
Yep.
I just don't see the difference like other people look at it. I just don't.
I think one of the things that needs to happen, and very rarely lately has it happened, is when a Big 12 school plays an SEC school, whether it's a bowl game or a non-conference game, that there's success. That it's not the exception, but there needs to be a few scalps taken, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and I think last year's probably a pretty good example of that. You know what? K-State played for almost the entire first half. They played with Alabama. Did Alabama get away from them in the second half? They did. And you got to give them credit for that. They are what they are. You know, I look at those guys, and I'm just being honest about this too. And I get how good the league is at the top. I've mentioned that earlier with the SEC, but they lost 2 heartbreaking games, and that's really the only thing that separates them from the others, correct? I mean, Alabama was absolutely as good as most of the rest of those teams in the league, just like they always are. That's what and then so this is how things go. And I guess I'll say this to just let people think about the point I'm trying to make. When I went to the press conferences for Alabama at the bowl game at the Sugar Bowl, one of the very first questions is how have your guys dealt with the disappointment of being in this game? Really? They're in the Sugar Bowl. Let's keep perspective here what Alabama was before Nick Saban. And he is not, let me say that again, he is not going to be there forever. Nebraska won forever. Texas has won forever. But you know what, guys? This is driven by coaches. Kirby Smart. Is Georgia going to be the same when he leaves? Maybe, maybe not. I think that's what the other thing that people miss. And there's good coaching in this league. I'm convinced of it and always have been.
Wyatt, great stuff. We'll see you, Wednesday? Which day will you be there, one or both?
Well, I'm going to be there both. I can't wait to get to know my new guys, play-by-play guys, a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I've known Greg Wrubell at BYU forever, but those other guys, I want to kind of hang with them a little bit. And I love being there the whole time, man. So Stan and I are going to do that. Look forward to seeing you guys.
If you don't mind, when Gene Taylor has been with us, I mean, he's been on the show, I think 3 to 5 times since the fall of 2021, when the summer of 2021, when all hell appeared to break loose. And he was honest. He and Iowa State, Jamie Pollard, Matt Rhodes, who joins us almost weekly, that they were like sick to their stomach because they really did not know. Did you have that same feeling like a lot of people did when that went down, similar to what happened in the early parts of 2010 decade when 4 schools left the Big 12 and like, what's going to happen here?
Oh, sure. There's a guy in our fan base that lives here in Manhattan who's one of our most diehard fans. He still teases me about the look on my face when I found out. I mean, it was a sickening feeling. And yet, as we've gone through that and other change, things are going to be okay. I think what people have found out through this is that Big 12 football is a good product. It is a good television product too. Numbers are going to point that out. People are watching Big 12 football now, and they just are, and they should. It's a great product. I'm really happy and proud of what the league has done. But I'm also excited about the future. And you know what, guys? Those 3 guys you named, and there are others in this league, kind of starts at the top with those leadership guys, too. And we have really good ones in our league that way, too.
So how good is the transfer from Florida State, the running back, as they try to replace a Deuce Vaughn? Yes.
Well, he's not Deuce.
No.
But you know what? Everybody, when Deuce walked in here, everybody wanted to compare him to Darren, and I said Darren Sproles, and I don't compare anybody to Darren Sproles. But with that said, Deuce Vaughn made his way, and I think Trayshawn will too. He's not going to be here as long, but he is a really talented kid. I think in unison with he and DJ Giddens, who served last year as the primary backup, K-State is in fine shape there. Would they prefer to have Deuce back for his senior year? Mm-hmm. Of course.
Sure.
But they'll survive. And they'll survive because those guys can play. They've got their entire offensive line back. They've got Will Howard back, Phillip Brooks back. This is a really quality football team, and I'm excited about it.
Do you think, and I know I'm like extending this thing. I'm sorry. That's what okay. I do. Do you think K-State, which is kind of like they just hum along, is there going to be any kind of like, oh, we have all these people back. We won this thing last year, and yet we're still not picked to win it this year.
Yeah, there's some of that, but I think that's true about every year, if I'm being honest about it.
Sure.
And I get why. I totally understand why Texas is picked, even though K-State, won the championship against TCU last year. It also amazes me that not a lot of people are talking about, a TCU and what they did last year. And I get the way it ended. They got smashed by Georgia. I understand that. But they had a really, really great story all year long with that quarterback and that coach. That was incredible. And I'm a believer they're going to be pretty good again. And I just think, you look what Baylor was 2 years ago as opposed to last year. Which one do you think they're going to be more like? I would lean more towards 2 years ago than last year. Could I be proven wrong? Sure. But I'm gonna go on the side of I think I have a pretty good feel for what Dave Aranda is through my relationship with Chris Klieman, and he tells me he's really good, and I think they'll bounce back as one example. I think Tech is really making its way. Oklahoma State will be better. They don't have many years like they did last year, and they'll get decent quarterback play this year, don't you think?
Yeah, no,
I do.
Yeah. With Bowman, I think they just need to kind of like help him, make it a little bit easier for him. He's a gunslinger. Right. He wants to toss it all over the place coming out of that Tech system where he started his college career.
Yeah, so I think the league is strong, and I can't wait, guys. I'm excited to get to Dallas, even though is it still 100 degrees down your way?
No, it's 104. It's don't just Don't act like it's not 104. And then okay, of course you add the humidity.
But the good news is it's a wet heat.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
It's a humid heat. Hey, Wyatt, great stuff. Look forward to seeing you. When I see you there, I'll come up and shake your hand. We can't wait to see what happens. It's great that really almost like launching the football season starting Wednesday with the new Big 12. And thanks for your time today.
My pleasure, fellas. Great talking to you. We'll see you Wednesday.
The voice of K-State Athletics, Wyatt Thompson, with a lot of great nuggets. And again, he's not